Hello everyone, Trophy Wine Hunter. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm doing a review of a very unique wine. This is Commando G 2020 Las Iruelas. I guess it's a garage wine or a new wine. And why I bought this is one of my agents at HGH Retail told me, Trophy, you gotta have this wine. And so I have no idea what this wine is about, but it's supposed to be this really hot wine that everyone's talking about it. And I saw it on the wine list at published on Maine. I was there for a crew tasting and kind of said, hey, what's this about? And they said, man, this is spectacular. I said, okay, let's try this out and see what this is about. So Commando G. This is a winery that was established, I think, around 2008 by Landi and Fernando Garcia. So they had met in, I guess, wine school in Madrid, and both had their kind of wineries. Danny had a family winery called Bodegas Jimenez-Landi, and Fernando had Bodega Marañones. And so they're kind of these new innovative winemakers that are already looking for stuff. So G, what does it mean? G is for Garnacha. They thought this was a great varietal to grow in the region of Gredos. And that region has the soil basically is granite. It also, supposedly, G stands for a Spanish language version of a 1970s cartoon called Battle of the Planets, in which a team of stylishly caped heroes called the G-Force or Commando G was protected the Earth from alien threats. So this is kind of one of these wines. It's just out there. They kind of are just friends. They decided they wanted to do something innovative with the Garnacha grape into this region that's called Gredos. A very unique terroir. It is high altitude. It's free draining soils, and it's got relatively humid climate. Somehow they think this is the perfect climate for Garnacha. You know, there's Garnacha or Grenache grown all over the world, and one of the comparable wines that you look for in the world is SQN or Cinquana. That's kind of also sometimes Grenache in their blend, and so they just make these weird wines that taste excellent. This winery has kind of a Burgundy type terroir hierarchy system. And they have the wines from entry to highest level. This would be considered the second top level, the highest being Rambla El Norte. Until 2019, this wine was made under the Daniel Gomez Jimenez-Landi label. And then in 2020, it was absorbed into Commando G, signaling its collaboration with Daniel Landi and Fernando Garcia. So this is, I guess you could say, the first vintage under the Commando G label. Las Iruelas is a very muscular Garnacha from 70 to 75-year-old vines. And how did they find out this region? They were just drinking with locals, actually. And these locals were talking about the plantings of old vine Garnacha and how they didn't have people to pass on these great traditions. The terroir is a mix of granite and quartz. It's hard to really describe this wine. It is macerated for 2 months and then aged in 16 months in a combination of 500 liter French oak barrels and concrete tanks. And when people were describing this wine to me at the restaurant, they were saying, think Northern Rhone in terms of style. Now, if you look at the color, and I'm not sure you can see this, but the color is actually fairly light. It almost seems like Pinot Noir. And so you're thinking to yourself, it's gonna be a light wine. It's not a light wine, it's a heavy wine, in fact. And so it's kind of this interesting combination of what you expect, and when you have it on the nose, it is very similar to Northern Rhone wines like Reyes, Chateau Reyes. That's kind of the comparison. Has some comparables to Burgundy also. but on the taste, it's 15% alcohol, so it is a heavy type wine. So we had it in the restaurant, and now I've had this overnight. This has been well decanted, but even at the restaurant, it was it needed some time to open, but it was quite aromatic and floral. And then on the taste was very heavy, almost like a Northern Rhone type wine, and some reminiscent of Cinquanà also. So let's try and taste it and smell it right now. On the aroma, again, very unique wine. And I can understand why people, this is very, very highly rated by many of the wine critics. I understand why, because it's very interesting. So on the aroma, I get floral components to this, like roses and violets. And then you get this red fruit, like cranberries, strawberries in there too. And then after that, some earthiness. It's very unique in terms of the aromas that this comes out. It's a blend of many different regions that I can think of, but nothing that, you know, is completely exactly reminiscent of it. So it's, in my mind, quite a unique aroma. On the taste, it's got some red fruit, like strawberries, raspberries. It's got something that's reminiscent of like a candy store sweetness, like confectionery store sweetness. But at the end, it's got some dryness, like oak. Now I'm getting some almost anise or some licorice type of components to it. Very interesting in terms of the aftertaste. Very complex. Not heavy body. I don't find the tannins extremely heavy. In the mid palate is kind of medium, but then the aftertaste is heavy. So it's a really unique wine because to me, it's quite light on the palate initially, but then the aftertaste is very heavy. And so, and quite long. Right now, I'm still tasting the aftertaste right now. So, very long aftertaste. And, you know, you're getting anise, kind of a little bit of a almost tar or charcoal, licorice, all types of kind of flavors that continue to last. I'm talking still right now. I'm still tasting the aftertaste. So very unique wine. I can see why people love this wine. It's a great food wine, but it's very unique. I don't know how else to describe this. And I can see why it's being rated highly and why, you know, wine experts love this wine because it is so unique. I think it can age for a very, very long time, this wine. It does need several hours. This is a 2020 bottling. It does need several hours to kind of aerate. But my score on this is going to be 94 points. It's a really unique and complex wine. And I'm not sure, this is my first tasting of this wine, so I'm not sure I'm prepared for it because, again, it's not something I can compare it to. In my mind, it's quite a unique wine. And the closest thing I would think is Chateau Reyes. It's very similar to Chateau Reyes, but Chateau Reyes is very heavy. This is very light on the initial taste and quite delicate. In my mind, it's much more delicate than Chateau Reyes, but the aftertaste reminds me of Chateau Reyes. But it's really hard to distinguish or really hard to accentuate how a wine can be heavy but light. That's kind of how I feel with this wine. It is such a, on the palate, so fresh and so light in terms of the delicacy of it, but the tannins or the aftertaste goes on for minutes. So this is a very unique wine. Slightly medicinal, but definitely some anise and some charcoaly elements to this. Really, really fun wine to drink. And I think it's young, so I would give it another 8 years. but I'm so glad I had a chance to taste this wine. I think it's one of these wines that's unbelievably still underpriced. It's quite an expensive wine at this point. People in my channel can tell me what it is priced at in the US. I think it's a fairly difficult wine to find, but it's very beautiful and incredibly interesting for wine drinkers. And I would love to hear other people's opinion, but I think this is the type of wine that is well worth to seek. And I think you'll probably appreciate in price quite a bit over the next little while because it is such a unique wine. Hope you enjoyed this review. Until next time, happy drinking.